Hey guys, welcome back. Today's video is going to be eyeshadow palettes I would buy if I did not already own so many eyeshadow palettes. I just randomly thought of this video and I thought it would be fun to share because there's so many palettes that are on my wish list. Eyeshadow is my favorite type of makeup. I just love it so much. And I own over 100 eyeshadow palettes. I recently did a collection and declutter a couple months ago. I'll link that in the description box if you didn't see it. So yeah, basically these are palettes that I think are really, really nice. It's either brands I've wanted to try, but I just haven't because I have a lot of palettes, and it's also brands I already own from and I know that I like the formula. Disclaimer, I still might buy a couple of these, we'll see, but there's just no way I can justify the majority of these palettes with what I already own. But yeah, I just thought this would be fun to do, and let's get started. First on this list would be ridiculous if I bought these, but that is the Sigma mini palettes. Now, these are repeat shades, so I own the full size of all but one of the minis. But if I didn't own those full sizes, I would love to buy these. I think these are such a good idea. They're basically like a condensed version of their larger palettes. And yeah, but they are repeat shades from what's actually in the larger palettes. So I would not buy them, obviously. I was thinking about buying the Corta Rosa mini because the Corta Rosa is the only one that I don't have in a full size. However, there's like two shades in the full size Corta Rosa that I really, really am interested in, and they didn't put those in the mini. So that was a bit disappointing. I think I am gonna pass on that. I think I'd rather just buy the full size Corta Rosa, but honestly, I think these mini palettes are a really, really good idea. Let's see. Next up, two palettes from Urban Decay made it on this list. These are palettes I've wanted since they came out, but I just felt like I could not justify buying them with the color selection I already own. The first up is the Wild West palette. This one looks lovely, and I know they just came out with that mini, but they did not include the shades I would have included in the mini, like that beautiful red burgundy that's in the full-size palette. Why didn't they include that? I don't know. That looks like such a beautiful color. So I really don't like what they picked for the mini. Honestly, if they had picked better shades, I might consider that. I don't know. This is one that maybe I'd get it if I could get it 50% off, but I don't know. I love the Naked Honey palette, and I also love the Ultraviolet palette. I think they're great. I don't know. I just felt like I had these colors, even though I'm still tempted to get it. And then the other one is the Naked Heat. This palette has been out for such a long time. I love warm tones so much. And I think what held me back from ever buying it is that it's $54, which is kind of a lot. But also I have a lot of warm tone palettes in my collection. However, the reviews on this palette are really good, and several of you guys have told me you have it and you really, really like it. So again, this is one that I think maybe if it was 50% off, maybe I'd get it then. I don't know, but yeah. Next up is the Practk Original Major Dimension palette. I did buy the Major Dimension 2, and it is beautiful. And the original looks amazing. It also has fantastic reviews. But I just don't really feel like I need to add another like standard neutral palette to my collection at this point because I have a lot already. However, yeah, this has tempted me. It's also $68, very, very expensive. So I don't know that I want to spend that much money where I don't know that I would necessarily get my money's worth out of it because I already own so many neutrals. And I bought the Major Dimension 2, and it's really, really great, but I haven't used it quite as much as I wish I had. I've had it for a couple months now since it came out, and I've probably used it 10 times or less. So I don't know, that's what holds me back from getting the original one. I just don't really know that I'd get my money's worth out of it, but I do love the formula on the one that I have. It's really, really nice. Also, I would love to get more Pat McGrath palettes, but again, I just don't feel like I need to. I would love to get the Utopian Dream palette. I do own 3 of her large mothership palettes, And this one looks so stunning, but I do feel like it may have some shades similar to her other palettes. And I don't use my Pat McGrath palettes as much as I wish I did. I think it's partly because those ultra shimmery shades sometimes can be intimidating. They're a little bit more difficult to work with, but they are beautiful. I mean, I love them. So whenever I use my Pat McGrath palettes, I absolutely love them. But honestly, I do not use my Pat McGrath palettes as much as I use my BH Cosmetics palettes or my Natasha Denona palettes. I just find those palettes a little easier to work with, but I love her palettes. They're so, so good. Side note, I did just see on Sephora that the large mothership palettes had a price increase. They were $125 and now they are $128. Personally, I try to get her palettes on sale on her website. Actually, the day I'm filming this video, I got an email that she's having like a 30% off sale. So that's when I try to buy her palettes. But yeah, Utopian Dream, I really want it, but I feel like I wouldn't use it that much. Next up, I want to talk about Wet n Wild. I actually bought this palette earlier this week. I've not even talked about it on my channel yet. Emily Noel was talking about these palettes and how great they are. And I was like, you know what? I really want to try one. And they're only $5. So I bought this one. That's the Heart and Soul. It's like pinky, peachy. I've used it twice so far and it is fantastic. I am so surprised. And now I want to buy all of them. And it's like, oh, they're only $5 each. But again, I don't want to spend even just $5 on a palette that I wouldn't necessarily use that much. Oh my gosh, there's one with a bunch of golden shades that I was really tempted to buy when I was at Target buying this one. But I was like, no, don't do it. This one I feel like is a bit more interesting with like the pinks and the burgundies. It's so pretty and I'm just really surprised. I know people rave about the e.l.f. Bite Size palettes. I personally was not super impressed with those. I've decluttered all of mine. e.l.f. is like an okay formula to me. And I've kind of struggled to find eyeshadow palettes at the drugstore that I truly, truly love as much as I do like BH Cosmetics or Natasha Denona. However, this is really, really good. It's not quite as good as my other favorites, but I think this is way better than any e.l.f. eyeshadows personally that I've tried. So yeah, I'm tempted to buy more, but yeah, I'm trying not to. Now, if I had a smaller collection than I do, there are a lot of ColourPop palettes I would love to purchase. But again, I just feel like I don't need them. One of them is the Of Quartz palette, this like taupey cool tone palette. It looks so good and the reviews are fantastic, but I have the Glam palette and I have other cool tones. So again, I just feel like I couldn't really justify this one. Also the, what is it called? Oh, the Your Golden palette. This one came out more recently. It's one of the larger ones. It's really pretty. This color story is lovely. Like the peach and the gold and the blue and the teal. It looks really, really fun. But I just feel like I have all of these colors and it's a larger palette. Again, I just don't think I'd really get my use out of it. It's really tempting me though because it looks really, really pretty. And then an older ColourPop palette that I still think about getting, but again, I don't think I'd get a lot of use out of it, is the High Tide palette. Now this is like a full blue and teal palette and I just don't use those colors regularly enough to justify buying a palette with only those shades. So that's why I haven't purchased it. But again, this one has really, really good reviews and it's super tempting. Earlier, I mentioned the Practk Top palette and I just felt like it was too neutral and I have enough neutrals and I wouldn't use them enough. I feel the same way about the original Persona Identity palette. I do have the Identity 2, which I think is a more unique color story. The formula on that palette is so good, which is why I've wanted to buy the original one, like since it came out, which was years and years ago. This palette is pretty old on the market at this point, but again, I just don't know that I'd get my use out of it because I own other neutrals and yeah. So that's what's held me back from buying this one. But again, this is one that if I had a much smaller collection or if my whole collection just disappeared and I had to restart from the beginning, I actually might buy the Persona Identity palette just to have as like a pretty standard neutral palette. I actually do think I would use it a lot if I didn't already have all the stuff I already own. So yeah, this one looks really, really good. Also, Sydney Grace. I have one palette for Sydney Grace and I really enjoy it. I have one of the Temptalia palettes. I don't use it that much because I just feel like the color story isn't something I am as attracted to on a regular basis, but it's such a good formula and I would love to get the Enduring Love palette. It looks stunning. I mean, everyone says it's amazing. Like I said, I've tried this Sydney Grace formula, so I know it's fantastic. And then the other one is the Be Mine palette. This one looks so pretty too. Oh gosh, but I just feel like I have these colors. I don't know. The Sydney Grace section of this video, I may buy one of these. I definitely don't think I could justify purchasing both, but I kind of go back and forth with maybe buying one of them. We'll see. And then speaking of indie brands, I really want to try more indie brands, but again, I already have such a large collection that I struggle with. I don't want to buy too many palettes basically, and I don't want to have even more than I already have and have things sitting around that I don't use. However, I am strongly considering the Unearthly Cosmetics Leather and Lace palette. This color story looks really nice. This is like the one thing on the list that I'm actually like considering getting. It looks really, really, really beautiful, and I've seen reviews. The reviews are great. It seems like the formula is fantastic. Unearthly Cosmetics has some other really cool color stories too. And honestly, like if I didn't own so many palettes, I would buy several of their palettes because I'm really attracted to their color stories. Alrighty, the last palette on the list is another indie brand that I've seen such good reviews of this palette, and I wanted to get it when it came out. That is the Blend Bunny Cosmetics Dollhouse palette. This looks like such a pretty combo of neutrals, but also some more colorful shades. I think it's a palette I could get a lot of use out of. It is a bit on the larger side though. There's a lot of shades in this palette. I did watch quite a few videos about this palette when it came out. And again, I was tempted, but because of my low buy and owning so many palettes already, I ended up not getting it. It is in stock. So I don't know. I really want to try more indie brands, but honestly, I am just held back by the fact that I don't want to just buy palettes that are going to sit around and I'm not going to get that great of use from, especially if it's a more colorful color story. I do love colorful eyeshadow, but it's just not something I can wear on a regular basis. Today I'm wearing a pretty colorful look, which is really fun. I really wanted to do that. But yeah, I've noticed I don't get a lot of use out of palettes that are just pure, like super colorful. Really monochromatic palettes I end up not getting a lot of use out of because I feel like all the looks kind of start to look the same. So I try to buy palettes that have some variety in there where you can do multiple different looks and they won't look the same. That's kind of what I look for, because with owning so many palettes, if I purchase more, I want it to be something that's going to add some value to my collection and give me the opportunity to try something different, but be able to do more than just like one look with the palettes. So yeah, that's kind of what I think about when it comes to palette purchases when I already own so many. So we'll see. Honestly, I mean, I may eventually buy like 2 or 3 of the items on this list, but the majority of these palettes, they sound amazing, but I just don't think I'd get enough use out of them considering what I already own. So yeah, I thought this would be a fun video to do. Let us know what palettes out there you would totally buy if it wasn't for things you already owned. So yeah, that is it. Thank you so much for watching. If you like eyeshadow palette videos, by the way, check out my eyeshadow palette playlist. Got a ton of palette videos there. So thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.